Why are so many people leaving Florida for Ohio? Well, on today's episode of Living in Columbus, we are going to dive into the details as to why so many people are leaving the Sunshine State for the Buckeye State, and you're never going to believe what some of these reasons are. Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Brad.Winter. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Go ahead and tap that subscribe button, click the bell, give us a like, drop a comment, because we want to notify everyone when we do these videos. And in these videos, we talk about everything that you need to know about living in the Columbus metro or surrounding areas. So as mentioned before, we're going to dive into it right now about why Florida is losing residents to Ohio. Let's check it out. All right, so you're never going to believe one of the reasons why so many people are leaving Florida for Ohio. Well, one of the main ones is Florida is really overcrowded. You have a state with around 22 million people, and a lot of that state is really condensed in the lower portion of it. I mean, if you look at places like Miami and Fort Lauderdale and the West Palm area, I mean, that place is totally just jam-packed full of people. And it's no different on the other side as you go up the Gulf Coast, all the way from Naples up to Tampa. It just seems like, for me, I could be wrong, the population is so intense right now. And when you have a state of 22 million people, that's a lot compared to Ohio, where we have, hovered around 11 million people. So there are some residents of Florida that are just tired of dealing with the traffic you have to deal with 22 million people. If you've ever been in Florida, the traffic is awful. The drivers are awful. It's just a big cluster down there. Not to mention, when you talk about housing, they're just stacked on top of each other because really they have nowhere to go, right? So there's not a lot of space in, we'll call it the main part of Florida. As you get into more central and maybe up north and into the Panhandle, that probably changes. But in the vast majority of the state of Florida, it is just so condensely populated that there's no room for this kind of growth as far as, maybe larger lots or some of these towns not getting swallowed up to become major cities. So, here in Ohio, we have so much farmland and we're really just kind of landlocked, right? There's no really bodies of water until you get, up north in the Cleveland area and, the Ohio River down in Cincinnati. But for the most part, we just have this vast amount of land. And the cities that are in Ohio, we have room to expand. A lot of times our lots are bigger, and even into these master plan communities that we are building, it may not seem like it, but if you go down to Florida, I mean, they are just stacked, or they have to go vertical. And so you have a lot of those different reasons why people just hate living in particular parts of Florida. The crowds are just insane, and it's just a little easier living here in Ohio. Hey, just a quick reminder, I am a licensed real estate advisor here in the state of Ohio. So if you have any real estate needs, whether you're moving, relocating, if you live here, whatever you need, make sure you give me a call. I'm gonna be the guy that answers the phone calls, text messages, the emails. I'm gonna have your back when it comes to all things real estate related. So another reason why people are leaving the Sunshine State is the insurance cost and the overall cost of living in Florida. And if you've seen the national headlines lately and you've seen probably stories, or maybe you've even experienced this, the insurance issue in the state of Florida is absolutely outrageous. So when it comes to your homeowner's insurance, the premiums down there are around $4,200 a year, which is triple the amount of the national average. And so, homeownership is already very tough right now with high interest rates and the lack of housing. You mix in now high insurance premiums, it's just making it very difficult for people to even afford to either buy a house or stay in their house or insure their house. I mean, there's people out there that I've talked to, I've read stories, in the news that they're just not insuring their property. They're just rolling the dice because they would rather do that than having to pay these high premiums. You are also getting a lot of these insurance carriers to just leave the state of Florida, right? And that's not good. They're potentially leaving clients high and dry or other things that are happening. So that is just crazy. And I have helped a number of people relocate here recently from Florida. And that is one of their biggest reasons of leaving, is just the cost of insurance. And then you get into the overall cost of living, whether that's housing, groceries, your gas, or rent. And because Florida has, a dense population, I mean, you're talking 22 million people, like we said before, and it is still very desirable for a certain sector of people, that the overall cost to live there is just, pretty unattainable for a lot of people. And that makes it very difficult to have a stress-free life or to even really live. And that is a big reason why people are coming to Ohio. Our insurance premiums are nowhere near as high as Florida, and our overall cost of living is pretty good on a national average. So people tend to have a little easier life here, or more breathing room to be able to do things. And so that's another reason why people are getting out of Florida. Reason number 3 why people are packing their bags and coming north is the natural disaster scene down there has been tough. It's always been a thing, but here recently, it seems like Florida has just been getting their butt kicked. They also rank number 4 as far as the states are concerned with the most natural disasters. So that's another reason why people are leaving, is, who wants to run the risk of hurricanes, or other things that are going on down there. It seems like here recently, there's a lot more hurricanes, or there's the weather down there. It gets a little dicey at times. And so there's some people that they've had enough of it, right? And it goes back to the insurance thing as well. People can't afford to insure their properties when they're having all these natural disasters. I'm sure that plays a big reason why the insurance premiums are going up. And so they're coming up north. And specifically in Ohio, we don't have a ton of natural disasters. So the big thing that you have to look for are tornadoes. And we don't have, a plethora of tornadoes every single year, but we definitely have some. There have been some very deadly ones here as of late. So that is something that you have to think about. But where we are positioned in the country, we don't really have to worry about a lot of natural disasters. And those are, hurricanes, or even out west, you have those massive wildfires. That is just not something that is on our radar, and more than likely, hopefully, we will never really have to worry about. So tornadoes are a thing. But a lot of people are, saying, hey, I just can't live like this anymore. I can't live with all the thought of having these hurricanes come in, and then I got to deal with insurance, or maybe I got to potentially lose my house because of the natural disaster. So, it's just another stressor that when they move here, they don't really have to worry about anymore. The next reason is actually kind of surprising. It's the weather. So here's what I know about people who maybe are not from Florida, but they moved down there. Maybe they're from the northern area or somewhere on the East Coast, and they move down. A lot of times they complain about how hot it is. And that is something that people desire when we live in the Midwest or North, is we want to be in warm weather more months out of the year than what we get it here. But in Florida, the average high down there is around 82 degrees for the entire year. And then you have to factor in humidity, and that's just an average. I mean, think about where it goes from there on the high side. And so, as you probably know, in the summer, it gets blazing hot down there. And it can be really brutal. And there's just some people that they like the idea of it, but that just is not something they want constantly, 12 months out of the year. So when they come to Ohio, they get the 4 seasons. Maybe they miss the 4 seasons because they're from here originally, or they've actually never been through like a real true fall or winter. And when they get here, they're pleasantly surprised. I mean, our average high temperature throughout the year is around 62 degrees. And so it's a little bit more mild. Now, do we have really cold days in the winter and in the spring? And is it kind of gloomy and mucky and all those things? For sure, right? You can't be perfect. I think there are a lot of people that I have talked to that after a while, they just can't handle the heat anymore. And so it's just not worth dealing with. They'd rather come here, have a little change of scenery with the seasons, and just be able to breathe a little bit easier when it comes to maybe they want to do more things outside. I mean, think about if you are somebody who's not used to the heat and you move down there and you're playing girls soccer or high school football. I mean, that's going to be brutal to be in those conditions and playing all like that all the time. So anyway, weather is always an interesting topic here on my channel, but I found there was some good insight as to why a lot of people, when they call me and say, hey, I'm getting out of here, weather is another reason why they're coming to Ohio. Another reason why people are leaving Florida for Ohio, actually, I had to put this one in here because I think it's funny, is wildlife. And what I mean by that is there are some rankings out there for states that are, we'll call them the most dangerous for wildlife. And there's all sorts of reasons why these things get ranked. But Florida comes in the number 3 as like the most deadliest state for, wildlife accidents or deaths, however you want to put it. And I just thought that was pretty wild. Now, don't get me wrong, Ohio's not that far behind them. We actually ranked at number 7. And so there's not a huge difference. But when I think about Florida and you think about wildlife deaths, some things that I'm thinking of is obviously, gators, right? Alligators, that's a big issue down there. And I don't know enough about that population of wildlife to speak too highly on it, but I'm sure there are quite a few alligator deaths throughout the year. And then you have, obviously you're surrounded by the ocean, so I'm sure you've got shark or jellyfish or anything like that, other animals that could cause some issues in the wildlife for people. But I just had to throw that one in there because I just thought it was wild that people actually, and I've read articles saying like people were just tired of dealing with certain wildlife instances or creatures in the state of Florida and they just left. So I thought that was interesting. But again, Ohio's not that far behind. We're coming in number 7. So, I don't know, maybe you're not safe anywhere. Last but not least, we are going to jump into what everybody probably associates why people are leaving Florida for Ohio, and it's housing. Cost of housing is always a big topic. It's a hot topic right now. It's on the news every day of the week, all the headlines, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. The real estate market is always an interesting topic. So right now in the state of Florida in 2023, the median home price is $410,000. Think about that. $410,000 is the median home price. That is just really unattainable for a lot of people. And I actually have a client who called and they are leaving Miami, Florida, right? Miami's so cool. It's got all these wonderful things about it, but they want to own a house. And unfortunately, and now granted, they're in Miami, so I'm sure that price is even higher, but they just don't feel like they can get the most bang for their buck. And they're wonderful people, they have great jobs, but they just want more. And so they're coming, to the state of Ohio. And right now, our median home price in the state of Ohio is $234,000. Now, that is definitely going to be area specific. Here in Columbus, we're going to be in that low to mid 3s for the median home price, but that's still more affordable than the whole state of Florida. And a lot of people, they still want to own a home. Home ownership is still very important to a lot of people in this country, and they just can't do it in the state of Florida. And so they're looking for other places to, kind of settle down. Maybe they grow their family, or maybe they're first-time home buyers, or maybe they're people that, are from the area and they decide to move back because they want some land or they want a bigger house, and their money is going to go a little bit further here. So housing's always a big issue. It's something that comes up a lot on this channel with my clients. And I just wanted to, kind of pointed out that Ohio is still really affordable, and there are parts that are expensive, right? Just like every state has its parts. So if you are looking to buy a house, Ohio is going to be, more affordable to purchase something than the state of Florida is. So there you have it. That is Ohio versus Florida and why so many people are trading in the Sunshine State for the Buckeye State. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Living in Columbus, Ohio. If you are thinking about moving, if you are already relocating, if you live here in the Columbus metro or the surrounding areas and you need something real estate related, make sure you give me a call, shoot me a text, fire off an email. Whatever you got to do, make sure you do it, because I'm going to be the guy, has your back, and help you with all your real estate needs. Again, thank you for tuning in to this episode, and we will catch you on the next one.